Ladies and gentlemen, fans of all ages, welcome to another episode of Fans, where you, the fan, can compete. I'm your special guest host today, Derrick Myers, joined with none other than the incomparable Chris. What's good, bro?
Just contemplating why these young athletes don't know what a condom is. But what's good, bro? Boy, they stay getting trapped.
Hey, more money, more problems.
Pause.
Yes, sir. So today we're going to discuss Kanye's claim as the GOAT, Big
Yes,
Sean,
sir.
and of course the Diddler on the run out here. But before we get into all of that, we want to remind you all to follow us on all social media platforms, OTS Media Co. and OTS Media on YouTube. Make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe, and that notification bell so you can keep updated on all of our work. Um, but
Facts.
yeah, let's go ahead and get into it, bro.
What's the 411, hun? What's the 411?
Um,
Yeah, it's a
actually,
lot to talk about.
yeah, you actually sent this to me. I didn't even see it until a little while ago. But Kanye is tired of all the GOAT talk, right?
Yeah,
And
I feel it.
uh, he wanted to throw his 2 cents in, and I'm going to read you the post real quick. So he says, "Everyone knows I watched Kendrick on No More Parties in LA. Everyone knows I watched Drake at the Free Hoover concert. Everyone knows I brought Adidas into this culture and I took them out. Everyone knows Lotta Dimna, Virgil, Jerry, Kim all worked for me. I made Yeezus Dark Fantasy, Pablo, Graduation, Throne, 808s. I made Runaway, Devil in a New Dress, Father Stretch. I am the only person to come back to number one after cancellation. There is only one GOAT. I stand with me. My friends call me Ye." What are your thoughts on all this right here?
Um, hmm. Okay, so we got to break this down into pieces. And
Yes.
for all intents and purposes, I'm pulling the post up myself so I can make
Yeah.
sure I tackle this appropriately
Yes, sir. Yes,
because
sir.
I think one thing Kanye does is he spits the truth, but he has to spit the truth through the filter of bias. And
Yes.
because he is who he is, people really don't give like his claims enough credence sometimes. You know, social media age is like super duper like hype beast oriented, which
Yeah.
sucks a lot. And so if you get enough people in the echo chamber saying something that like conflicts what you're speaking on, then everybody else will just agree.
Right.
So looking at it, first thing he says, everyone knows I watched Kendrick on No More Parties in LA. Nah,
Yeah.
can't say he watched him. I will say he definitely held his own.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I
No
think a
doubt.
lot of people look at verses and they think of like one track, right? They complexity or wordplay, and it's like, nah, you can have a simple verse that's the standout verse.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, we think about like No Hands with Wale, right?
Yeah.
Roscoe Dash came in and spelled his name, and he said, "I be going ham." Shorty upgraded from baloney,
Yeah. Yeah.
but everybody wait for his verse.
Yeah.
Don't nobody know Wale verse like that. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
know it, but it's like they slept on the bars. I swing that wood. I just none chuck them. I'm like, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Nobody knows
Yeah.
that. But they'll
Yeah.
say, rain, rain, go away. That's what all my haters say. And it's like he
Yeah.
clearly had the best verse by that virtue. And
Hmm.
so I think when it comes to like Ye versus Kendrick on No More Parties in LA, Kendrick's verse had a lot of complexity. It had bars. It had great wordplay. He was locked in the pocket with the flow. He was able to like tell, a lot of information. And I mean, it was a super solid verse. But then here comes Kanye talking about real life issues, talking about, living in LA and, I just bought this whip and my assistant crashed as soon as we backed it out. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Same as Lil Ye. this just happened, that just happened, and it's kind of like, dang, he kept my interest talking about real life stuff in a real simple manner. He wasn't
Mhm,
even on beat all the time. He put too many words in his bars, but
mhm.
like he also delivered it in a format that was like more captivating because it
Mhm.
was simpler.
Right.
And so I definitely think if he said like I watched Kendrick, then that's like too far. But if you want to talk your talk and be like, you know, I had the best verse, I really
Yeah.
think that's debatable.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not mad at that. I washed is crazy though.
Yeah.
And see that's the thing too. I Kanye is one of those guys where you kind of think like everything is good, and then all of a sudden, you know, you turn back maybe like a year or two later, and then all of a sudden he's saying he bodied you on XYZ, and I think it's probably at this point where I'm pretty sure Kendrick doesn't really care what he says. I'm pretty sure Drake doesn't care what he says. I would honestly be surprised.
Kendrick don't. Drake definitely do. Drake
Well,
sensitive.
Drake is too sensitive, and I think that's one of the things that this whole situation, if people didn't pay attention to it before, you
Mm-hmm.
it's undeniable at this point. It's undeniable because you go back and look at what sparked the whole thing. It was the control verse,
Ooh,
and
ooh, ooh.
like how can you be mad? Like I get it as a competitor,
For
you're
sure.
gonna want to respond likely, but it seemed like everybody that he called out that actually responded, I'm pretty sure they either reached out or whatever, and Cole definitely reached out to make sure everything was cool, but he responded, and they gave him his props for his verse. Drake was the only one that was just like, it's not real life. It is what it is. And that's the one thing that I don't like about this, because if you look back at some of his interviews early on in his career, he was talking about how he understood that this rap thing is a competition, right? And can't you can't make your claim as the GOAT and then get all in your feelings when someone calls you out or someone doesn't like you, right? Like this is a competition. It's not about friends. When you playing basketball, you out on the court, you're not supposed to care about who the opponent is in terms of like someone you like or someone you know. That's the opponent. You got to go at them, right? This is a
Facts.
sport. You got this. You got to go at them. So Drake is interesting because if he does respond to this feeling a type of way,
He been responding on Instagram. He be
but
like, I had this conversation with somebody on Facebook, and I was like, "Yo, Drake is mad corny. Like y'all say, the king of sneak disses. Like, what was it cool to be a sneak disser?
nah,
Like, if I
I
don't
agree
say
with
your
that.
name directly in the track,
Yeah,
but you know it's about you,
yeah,
everybody else knows it's about you. That's not a sneak diss.
it's not a sneak
Like,
diss,
if I say my co-host is trash, I don't have to say Derrick for people to know that my co-host is Derrick.
right?
Or if it's Ash, like it's one of those like y'all know, put the pieces of the puzzle together. So it's like when Kendrick said what he said, you knew it was to Drake and Cole.
Right.
But now I'm looking at Drake like Instagram post 18 hours ago, and it's a photo of him with his arms folded like this, talking about they rather go to war with me than admit they are their own worst enemy. So technically, if they their own worst enemy and they'll go to war with you, then that means you ain't banging on them. Logically,
So, and that's the thing about this that I would like for us to have this discussion at some point as a society, right? Can we stop considering Drake hip hop?
hey, me and hey, so all right, me and one of my partners, we was like having a good discussion about this, and I'm of the opinion that Drake does like skirt that fine line between like hip hop and pop, because he does rap, he definitely still raps,
He
but
does. He definitely does. Yeah.
but he's not like the classic stuff. And I had this conversation with my boy some years ago. A lot of it revolved around Young Thug, and I was
Right.
like, the reality is we just can't keep taking a bunch of new stuff that really is
Hmm.
like a branch, throwing it into the main like trunk, and then
Yeah.
just trying to update the definition of the trunk. The
Yes.
trunk is the trunk.
Yes.
Extensions are extensions. You
Yes.
really do need to like delineate between them
Yes.
because like hip hop was really boom bap. It started talking about certain elements of the culture, of the struggle, and things that
Hmm.
were real life. Which is why if you update that, yeah, we can all talk about how we was poor. We can talk about drug dealing. We can talk
Hmm.
about being tired of being in the ghetto. We can talk about rights. We can talk about street culture. That's valid. But when you start like doing stuff like what Thug did with the auto tune, like to the degree that he does it, you got to make a line. It's not the same as T Pain.
Right. It's not. It's not.
You know what I'm saying? And
It's
ain't
not.
nothing wrong with like he be sliding on tracks when I
Yes.
can understand him. At the same
Yes.
time, it's like you just got to be like, yo, we need to name this a different genre. And
And
side
that's
note, I gotta
fine.
say this, and this is I don't want to say it, but it's gotta be said. Black people, it's okay because hip hop is our culture.
Yes.
It's ours.
Yes.
And other elements that are our culture that we've given away, such as rock, such as house and EDM, things that we made,
Yeah.
jazz, things that we made,
Yeah.
country, things that we've made, we've given to other races and they don't argue. They're
Right.
like, cool, well, this is metal. This is death metal.
Hmm.
Cool. Well, we'll just make this classic rock. All right, we'll make this alternative. We'll make this grunge and we'll make this punk. And they can say there's a difference. They can say this is jungle, this is house, this is techno, this is rhythm and bass, this is deep house. They ain't got a problem with it.
Right.
And we be like, yo, let's call this no, it's hip hop. It's like, yo, no, why y'all the only folks that got issues with this? Folks can
Yeah.
go to other genres, they can be different ages, and they can still do this forever. People love
Right.
to see 70 and 80-year-old folks like rock out. They
Right.
love to see
Right.
folks in their 50s and 60s still kill it. Nobody trip on Tiesto being like 50 and
Yeah.
like killing the club set. Nobody
Yeah.
trips on David Weather doing that. If you a country singer, you come out with a song, people love it. But it's like we be so limited when it comes to like definitions and how we like well, what's the word? Perspectives when it comes to like hip hop and rap. And I said all that to say, like, y'all really got to be more open to accept that, like, hip hop is an umbrella and there are things that are, like, underneath it.
Right.
Y'all
I
can't
think we
keep
are.
calling this the same stuff.
It has evolved over time, and I'm fine with that. Right.
Yeah.
I would like for us to have these delineations with this music because
But
it's not you can saying that, and I know someone's gonna get pissed at me for saying this, but saying
yeah, right.
that yeah, they will that Kanye and Drake are like on the same level when they
Nah,
do different things. They do different things, bro. You know
Kanye
what
is
I'm
ahead
saying?
of Drake
So
by all accounts.
by far. So to say that, that Kanye's gotta come out and say that I'm the GOAT, I body Drake on XYZ, it's like that wouldn't to me that wouldn't make you part of that conversation. But yes, he is one of the greats for sure.
Yeah.
He is one of the greats. Drake is not hip hop. He's not. It's like Chris Brown can rap, right?
But,
We do not consider him hip hop,
right, right,
right?
right.
What's the difference? What's the difference? Drake sings, right? He sings.
Yeah, that
He
was
is a
real.
singer that can rap. He is not a rapper. He's not a rapper. So it's putting Drake in the same lane as a Kendrick, as a Cole, as a Drake, as a and he's Drake has even compared himself to Jay-Z. You know what I'm saying? So
No,
it's like it's like, come on, no, 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 don't do that. I think this is the reason why this conversation gets so off kilter is because we're not classifying people correctly. It's like going to a library and you're trying to find a book, but it's not in the right section, right?
No, that's real. I think people. So I think there's something that happened with our generation in particular, and the shift mentally and socially of our generation that has aligned with the newer generation, which
Mm-hmm.
is sad because the newer generation came, like each generation got their things. I do think our generation was like a golden age, um,
Yes.
in terms of like when we literally were coming up as kids. And a lot of folks will take that offensively, but I'm like, nah, you got to think about it. If you're like a millennial, especially if you were like in the middle of the millennial area,
Yes.
middle of the millennial era, because you got to grow up in the 90s where you got to experience big booms and everything. You got to see like the revitalization of the MLB because
Right.
of
Right.
steroids, with sports. You got to see like the peak of Jordan growing up and then like the rise of Kobe and
Yeah.
Shaq. We got to
Yeah.
experience that. We got to experience like things socially when it comes to communication with actually calling people on
Mm-hmm.
home phones, not
Mm-hmm.
having accessibility with cell phones, right? Not having social media. And so it's like a lot of opinions, like you didn't just get to say whatever. You know what I'm saying? Folks who was
We're
like
the
out
we're the
there.
middle child.
Yeah, like when
Yeah.
Cole dropped that song Middle Child, like that's real.
Yeah.
We're big brother and little brother all at once. And that's
Yeah.
super valid because it's like cultural elements that exist that we navigate them differently. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we talking about Bluetooth, we talk about text messaging, we talk about Instagram, Twitter, like YouTube. It's like, yo, YouTube came out like my junior or senior year of high school. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not
Yeah.
ashamed to say that. Folks
Yeah.
would be like, "Ooh,"
Yeah.
it was like, no, it was a different thing though. Like
Yeah.
we didn't live on YouTube.
Right.
Instagram didn't drop until my senior year of college. We didn't
Right.
live on Instagram.
Right.
So I be laughing sometimes when I see these trends and it's like post you and such. I bet you can't, or I bet you'll skip. And it's like, honestly, I was living life.
Yeah.
Like, I hate the fact that nowadays folks be like, it's like you're not really even hype. You're just
Right.
saying a and
Yeah.
posted something. You know what I'm saying? So it's like even how
Yeah.
you experience and process stuff is more or less like for notoriety, for clicks, for hype, for discussion. It like
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really have like a lot of data and backing and foundation to it, including
Right.
some of these opinions. And it's like y'all lack the information. Y'all don't know the history. Y'all don't have the experience to go with these claims that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you can be like communicating your opinions and your thoughts well, that still don't mean you informed enough to make some of these like
Exactly.
conversations. Because it's
Exactly.
like me and my boy we was talking about like the big three, and I was like, one, I hate that we just going with this big three narrative for everything. I hate it.
Yeah.
Sports, I hate it.
Yeah.
Culture,
Yeah.
music, it's dumb
Yeah.
because there was. It's like we could talk about who was the big three in the 2000s. It's like, yo, it was too many people killing it at the same time.
Way too many people.
Because when
And
Backpack Rap popped off, you had
mm-hmm.
Ye and Lupe.
Mm-hmm.
Street rap, you talking about the diplomats. You know what I'm saying? That they was
Mm-hmm.
killing it at that time. 50 Cent had
Yeah.
just dropped and G
Yeah.
Unit killing it. Game just dropped, killing it. Lil Wayne just started solo,
Yeah. Yeah.
killing it.
Yeah. And that's the
Who you
thing though.
talking about?
I think we were able to appreciate talent more so back then than this generation can now because it seems as if there's an obsession with comparing everybody in the moment, right? I like,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it comes to sports, I like to wait till people are retired to say where they rank, right? That's why you won't really hear me talk about LeBron right now. I'll talk about his ranking later,
LeBron
but
did this, he's the GOAT. It doesn't work like that.
it doesn't work like that. I think, and that's the thing where I think people get so caught up in the accolades of artists right now to say that this is the reason why they're the GOAT. So Drake has broken all these records for Spotify, right? I mean, like, salute to him. But to me, that doesn't mean anything. That
Hey
just
man,
because he did that does not mean anything to me. Because you know how many
call his
streams.
pause. Call his name.
Jodak? Yeah, yeah. I can't stand that,
Hey,
bro. I can't stand that, man.
hey.
I can't stand that. I love you, bro, but I can't stand that because it doesn't belong in the conversation when we talk about goats because it
For real,
seems as if Drake is the only one that we talk about that with.
bro.
When it comes to Jay-Z, when it comes to Wayne, when it comes
You're not
to
tripping, man.
Tupac, Biggie, when it comes to these guys, I never hear about their streams.
Bro, that's
I
the
never
thing
hear about the
about
streams.
streaming.
We it's like when you watch sports, you're like, okay, you can do the eye test, see where this guy is. I know how this guy plays, right? That's why
Not
like
just whooping folks.
exactly. Exactly. But that's why I'm not mad at Kanye for saying that he's the GOAT, right? Because technically he has a point. He's one of the
I've been calling
greats.
him one of the GOAT producers forever. And here's the crazy thing. Everybody cracking jokes about Kanye talking about he didn't write that verse. I'm like, cool, Drake doesn't write his either.
Which
Like,
is
what are we talking
another
about?
that's another factor of this. And I think that's the thing when we're talking about that whole big three, that whole era or whatever at the time. That's why I don't talk about Drake. It's
Drake?
it's Drake,
Drake?
Kendrick, it's Cole, it's Sean, it's Wale. I talk about those guys, right?
Yeah.
That's those guys that I look at, I salute, right? Because they came up with the right mindset of like, okay, we're gonna go and attack it this way, right? Now, Sean and Wale don't get their love, which is why I love the fact that we're gonna talk about Big Sean here. So we're gonna
Yeah.
go ahead and transition real quick and go into flashing
Ooh.
lights. So
Ooh. Well, let me say this in closing, real quick,
yeah,
to Kanye's post. He held his own with no more parties in L.A. Did he watch
yeah,
Kendrick? No. Who had the best verse? That actually is debatable. Did he
yeah,
watch Drake at the concert? Not necessarily. I watched the concert live. Did he
yeah,
have the better set? Of course. Drake started
yeah,
singing and doing stuff he don't normally do. Kanye
right.
also had a longer set. Did he bring Adidas into the culture? No. Did he
No,
revitalize Adidas's like name in the culture? Yes.
yes,
Run
yes,
DMC did it
big time.
literally like 30 years before Kanye.
Before Kanye even thought
However,
about it.
after Run DMC fell off, like Kanye is the one that definitely brought him back into the forefront. Did these
Yes,
folks work for Kanye? Yeah. Nike dropped the ball because Kanye had phenomenal ideas and they got greedy and they tried to play him. And I'm glad Kanye was able to venture into his own lane and get popular, like minded, very affluent creatives to align with him. Um, songs he made fire classics. And I'll say this too. The one thing that I can genuinely appreciate about Kanye, not only
hmm
as a producer and a rapper and an artist overall, is while he does ride waves, he also genuinely creates them too.
he makes them. That's the thing.
No album sounds alike.
We would have to we'd have to circle back on that as well at some point because that's the one thing about Kanye. I know that everybody gets into this whole thing when we're talking about him, um, and we go into the whole mental capacity and all that stuff.
Yeah.
He has done a lot of stuff lately that's kind of it makes you look at him sideways, but that does not take away from the genius of Kanye, right? And I think that that's
And
the one thing that we have to appreciate. We have to appreciate these artists while they're here, right,
multiple number ones in the 2000s, the
bro?
2010s, and multiple number ones in the 2020s.
Yeah, yeah,
Multiple.
yeah. It's time to put
And
some respect on people's names, man. It's time.
the
And good.
I'm about to say you got a global fashion market. He literally started his own wave of clothing, and he took one of the worldwide leaders in clothing, and he became so prolific that their brands, like 75% of their income, was dependent on him.
Right. It's almost like he is a goat. I mean, And let's, again, let's talk about, let's go ahead and transition
Yeah,
into
yeah, yeah.
flashing lights.
Flashing lights.
Speaking of goats, goats typically put folks on, and one of my favorites, my man's,
Talk about them. Talk about them.
um, Sean Don, boy, Sean don't get enough love, bro. And I had a
At
discussion with
all.
some partners of mine. We was talking about it. It was like, yo, when we gonna have an honest discussion about Sean? I was like, yo, out of like the 9 works that he's dropped in recent years, I was like, I'd say 7 of the 9 hit. And people
Yes.
don't necessarily like this, but I'm like, we gotta be honest too. Um, when you compare him against like his peers, 7 out of 9 is higher and better than everybody except Kendrick, to be honest. But Sean's downfall, I shouldn't say downfall, but one of the biggest issues against Big Sean, his career, how prolific he was, his social prowess, was advertising, right?
Yeah.
Sean, Wale, Cole, Kendrick, a lot of them were also the middle childs of technology and music as well. We all
Yes.
millennials, but like we were still buying albums. Like I bought Wale first album. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like
Hmm.
I remember listening to Sean first on mixtapes in like '09. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Listen to Big Sean. I remember seeing like Kendrick on a random video on BET when he had dropped High Power back in like
Oh yeah.
2011. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
like you needed that type of advertising. And I think around 2010, 2011, Kanye hit his peak of peaks. I mean, the
Hmm.
man had just dropped My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. He just linked with Jay Z and dropped Watch the Throne. He ended
Hmm.
up having a whole series called Good Fridays, and he had assembled a ton of phenomenal artists on his label.
Right.
But outside of the stuff Kanye did, which really was more or less for him, a lot of his artists really didn't get the shine that they needed in terms of like him saying, check them out. The promotion
Hmm.
was lacking, which is why Tiana Taylor left, which is why
Yeah.
Common disassociated himself, which is why John Legend left. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which is why Charlie Wilson was like, I'm not signing. Which is why Big Sean had to get a distribution deal through Rock Nation.
Right.
And it's like people didn't even know all this existed. And it's like, that's why. Imagine if Sean had like top tier advertising.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It would
That's
be crazy. And he probably would have, respectfully, respectfully, he probably would have never dropped Hall of Fame.
yeah.
Hall of Fame
Yeah.
wasn't bad, but as prolific as Sean was lyrically and musically, Hall of Fame was like, you could have kept this, bro.
Yeah. I will say a point that you made I never even thought about was again being in this generation where we're used to these artists, we're used to their music speaking for themselves,
Hell yeah.
right? And I think that's the also the issue that Sean ran into, Wale ran into, J. Cole. Even he even brought has said it on a verse before. I think it was a lot where he was talking about he think the music would speak for itself, but obviously it's not. So the marketing aspect of it, I think, has definitely hurt Sean for sure. But when you're talking about hip hop and especially that generation, that era of artists, he's undeniable. He's undeniable. You
Easily.
you cannot say that you're a hip hop fan and not talk about Sean. I'm so sorry. You
Facts.
cannot do it because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
But
I
but
think that
this generation don't make sense.
it doesn't. But I think that Wale's, I mean, Sean's issue was similar to how to Wale's. Where you remember we talked about it before, where it was like
Yeah,
signing with that label.
with
Was that
MMG.
yeah? Was that the wrong move for Sean?
Yeah. So I had a discussion. I had a discussion about this too, and it was like, "Yo, should Sean have went indie?" And I was like, "It's a toss up
Yeah,
because the market shifted significantly, but nobody knew it was gonna shift how it did."
yeah,
Right? Like
yeah.
Nipsey Hussle was indie. I remember
Hmm.
he put up in one of my favorite songs, "Key to the City," "Keys to the City,"
Yeah.
rather. He said, "Jay passed, Dre passed, Capital in Atlantic too. Thought
Yeah.
that I'd be dead because what I say in my raps is true," or
Yeah.
something to that in the last part. And it's like you felt like you had to go major.
Hmm.
Wale left Alito Records and hopped on with like MMG and I think Atlantic or
I think so.
somebody, because he was like he felt like he needed that, right?
Yeah.
And you didn't have a whole lot of folks going indie, and if they was indie, then like they was indie under like a big indie label that popped. Like that's why
Yeah.
Lil Wayne was able to make like cash money.
Yeah.
Excuse me, was able to make Young Money
Young
under
Money.
Cash
Yeah.
Money because Cash Money really like had a strong following. And so
Yeah.
when you think about Sean, like he thought he did a good thing with good music because Kanye was hot. There wasn't a place you couldn't find Kanye, and it wasn't something
Yeah.
that he touched that didn't turn into gold. And it was just an unfortunate situation. But had he went indie, we can't expect him to have made it because Nipsey, right? He took a hold of the shift when he dropped Crenshaw. He was like, "Yo,
Hmm.
pay for profit," or whatever. So it's like I'm gonna sell my album or my mixtape rather for $100. Now it also includes the concert ticket. But like you also used to free this, free that. Like I ain't making money off of that. You want it, like you say, support it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
$100. And Jay-Z bought like a few of them copies, and it was like, yo, that put him on, right? Like Wale had to keep dropping mixtapes, and that's when we really got to understand like the real Wale, like just how dope he was. We didn't know Chance the Rapper was gonna get the break that he got.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like you didn't know that stuff was gonna happen. Now once it happened, it's locked in. Ain't nobody
Yeah.
really dropping mixtapes like that no more. But prior
Right.
to that, like it was hard to call. Could Sean have been that one? I don't know. Because I think the
Yeah. I don't
problem is
know.
everybody likes to look in retrospect and be like, well, they wouldn't have did this. And it's like, yeah. But in retrospect, can't nobody call the future either.
Exactly.
We didn't know Chance existed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he dropped one album, and we've been talking about Chance the Rapper since 2013. And
Bro.
he didn't drop his debut album to like 2017, maybe 2018. But he's a household name.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, man. I think like it would have been great if he to see the what if for Sean
Yeah, for sure.
because of the fact that you think about we think about independent artists differently now. Back then that was like almost unheard of.
Yeah.
Like, and I think people don't think about that too because, again, like you said, that was a transition in time where the internet started to really blow up, where the user could have
Yeah.
control over things. We weren't even used to that. It was more so like you just kind of just connected. You didn't artists weren't using it that way. And I think we're putting today's perspective. We're looking at yesterday through today's lens, and I think that's kind of difficult to do when you're not adding context to it, right? Would have been great, would have been great, but I don't know. Like I think if Sean broke today, I think if Sean were a newer artist today,
Oh my gosh,
that'd be
bro,
different.
killing it.
That'd be different. That'd be
Oof.
so different. That'd be so different. But I'm looking forward to seeing what this new album is going to be like. We've seen him. You watch Tiny Desk, right?
I haven't seen it yet on purpose.
Okay.
I just want to take time to like absorb it all, kind of like dodge the internet hype.
Yeah. It
Cause,
was
cause I'm
great.
a big fan. Like I literally been
Yeah.
listening like since Finally Famous the mixtape, Finally Famous the mixtape, Volume Two, Volume
Yeah.
Three, when the album dropped in 11. You know what I'm saying? And I've been rocking since. Like to me, just an aside note, Big Sean is one of my favorites in the same way like Dom Kennedy is.
Right.
So it's like when I see stuff like that, like I don't really care for the hype as much as I like just really appreciate like one of my favorites is killing it and I want to be absorbed in the moment.
Let me ask you this. Do you think, label aside, all that stuff, right? Do you think that his career would have been different had Kendrick not done what he did?
Did control?
Yeah. Because I feel like the spotlight every single time that Sean has a moment, Kendrick just comes out of nowhere like a villain and steals a spotlight from him because he dropped that track last week, right?
Yeah.
And it was something that no one really discussed because outside of just laughing at Sean's spotlight being taken again, because Kendrick dropped.
I ain't gonna lie. Um, I feel bad for Sean because he had such a cold rollout. He
He
came
did.
out of nowhere dropping bars on the gram, and everybody's like, "Oh
Yeah.
shoot, Sean is back." Well,
Yeah.
really, he popped up with a post like, "Precision is coming." Well, actually, go
Yes.
further back. Sean started to roll out about 3 months ago when you heard snippets of Precision for NBA 2Ks and like the new one, and I'm like, "Yo, this sound cold." Like
Yeah.
I want to know what this is. You couldn't even find the name of it. Shazam
Yeah.
wasn't popping up. Now he puts a post on the gram and he's like just introspective.
Hmm.
Then he's like now got some bars on the gram. Then he drops precision.
Yeah.
And then he like 2 days later he drops a tiny desk. Somewhere along the way, Kendrick Lamar comes swooping in and was like, "Call y'all niggas." And it's like, bro, what? Where did this come from? Now the internet's the
Yeah.
buzz because yeah, you're Kendrick Lamar. Of course we gonna listen.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
like, bro,
Yes.
like I hate that you did that because
Yeah.
man, what he drop control on? That wasn't no Hall of Fame. Or was it on Hall of Fame? I
That
think it was
was,
on Hall of Fame.
I think it may have been. That was
I'm looking
what,
at the track list.
20, it was 2011, right?
Nah, Control should have been 2013.
13.
I swear that was on Hall of Fame,
Yes, it was. It was Hall of Fame.
which is so crazy because
Yeah.
we didn't. It's weird too because Moolah wasn't like the greatest, but Moolah was like a Rick Ross esque track.
Mhm.
Um, having Beware with Janae Aiko was like a good pop joint.
Yeah.
Um, Fire was like a good pop joint too. And then Control was just like move everything to the
Crazy.
side. Kendrick, like yo, diss was so strong that folks you didn't diss got pissed that they didn't get dissed.
Right.
That was nuts.
And
When he
that was
said
a
I'm the king of
crazy
New
verse by
York and
Sean,
Atlanta.
too.
And that's the thing. It's like
That was a crazy verse.
I don't. It's like I don't want to call Kendrick a hater, but it's like, bro, your timing is like wicked. You got
And
very wicked timing.
yeah, he does. He does.
He's
He
got
does.
very wicked
I,
timing, bro.
like,
Woo!
I do feel bad for Sean, but like, do you think because we're at this point now where his album is coming out, right? It's in the
Yeah.
middle of all this
Mm.
craziness. Do you think that he's going to get the type of love for the album that he should get, with everyone
No.
anticipating Drake. I mean, not Drake, but J. Cole's new album coming out. Kendrick
Well,
might be dropping pretty soon too.
it's tough, bro. Cause I'm looking at the discographies now, right?
Yeah.
So when you look at like Big Sean discography, and here's where it gets wicked. Like Finally Famous dropped June 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Section 80 came out in 2011. Section
Yeah.
80 was like fire, but it wasn't commercial. But
Yeah.
then like, Sean drops Hall of Fame in 2013 and he features Kendrick on it. You know what I'm saying? Still not too bad. Kendrick had dropped Good Kid, Mad City. Good idea to put Kendrick on it, but that overshadowed him.
Right.
Now Sean comes back with Dark Sky Paradise in 2015. And guess who else dropped in 2015? That's when
I'm
Kendrick
starting
dropped
to
To Pimp a Butterfly. And here's what's
what
nasty about it. Sean dropped in February, so Kendrick dropped in March. Then Sean dropped I Decided in 2017, which actually was a really solid album, super slept on. I
yeah.
loved I Decided.
Yeah.
And he dropped that in February of 17. And guess who also dropped in 17? And Kendrick had dropped Damn in April of 17.
I almost wonder because this is not coincidental. This is calculated. So
You
what is
would
the
think,
issue? What is the issue that Kendrick has with Sean? What is the
it's,
issue? Because
I can
I
only
don't.
speculate a couple of things, to be honest with you. I can look at it one or two ways. Like I remember when Cole and Kendrick first dropped, they always gave each other props. And Cole has
They
been
did.
taking shots at Kendrick, like Kendrick been taking shots at Cole for a minute. I don't think like any of them really ever looked at Drake as like being him lyrically. Cole, I think, is like he has an aversion to beef, so he bigs up Drake because Drake is like a premier artist. This is all
Hmm.
important background information
Right.
because a big part of it is like when you talk about your peers, you talk about competition, you talk about who you looking at.
Hmm.
Now, what do we do with like Big Sean? What do we do with Wale? J. Cole came at Wale in False Prophets because he's like, yo,
Yeah.
you one of them, but
Yeah.
you're not acting like it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's giving these big ups. Now, Kendrick and Cole are on this level, right? And they don't really have like anything against each other. Now, where does Sean come into all of this? Sean is one of the preeminent MCs that came out of that class of folks. The issue is I think how Kendrick Lamar goes around giving praise as opposed to some of his peers. And I said all the other stuff I said to tie this all together to show like people who have big names tend to generate or dictate how things should move socially.
Mhm.
J. Cole is like really beef adverse. I had to figure out that I need to say Ayo for that one. Uh, I don't. I actually think that's like safe for on
I
a
think
couple
it's safe.
levels.
It's
Yeah,
no Diddy.
no Diddy, but yeah, but like J Cole's like beef adverse, but like he will hop on the track and he will try to like murk you on your track as a feature.
Yes.
I think Kendrick because he is competitive, he is a battler. He's like the Michael Jordan, if I may.
Mm.
He's the guy that's out of the spotlight, but always holds weight. Like case in point, people slept on how Michael Jordan really is a recluse.
Mm.
Michael Jordan never was all up in the spotlight, just like Kendrick ain't all in the spotlight. But everybody wants to put them in the spotlight. And so, as a
Yes.
consequence of them staying out of the spotlight, people think, oh, you're quiet, you're reserved, you're this, you're that. And it's like, nah, I get active. I'm a competitor.
Yeah.
Now that we see the last dance, we're like, yo, I didn't know Mike was talking trash like that. At the same token, you can't trip 100% because Mike would also cook on the court. He could back it up.
Yeah.
Now bring in Kendrick. This is how Kendrick moves. And there are contemporaries that he holds on a certain level of regard and respect. And I think when it comes to Sean, Sean is one of them. So when you look at Sean versus Cole, you don't hear too many tracks with them together.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They had like respect for each other. They might trade jabs here or there, but like I really think that Sean is one to know where they're like, yo, like you him. I ain't gonna necessarily say enemy, but you know what I'm saying? It's like I really look at it like Kendrick might consider himself more akin to Magic than Sean more akin to Bird. Bird got injured and his
Mm.
career got halted, but everybody know if Bird was on that court, he gonna cook you.
Yeah.
And I think Kendrick is like I know like it seems like it's everywhere, but in short, for the folks who've been trying to follow along with what I'm saying, I think that J. Cole has dictated how a lot of people look at competition because he's the current social and fan favorite. I also think that Kendrick is more of an old school mindset where he's like, nah, we gonna get active. We gonna battle. I'ma say this even if it's tough. And it's because I respect you. I think Big Sean has like kind of transitioned. He's like, man, I don't really care one way or the other. And that's kind of pissing Kendrick off because Kendrick is like, you really the only person that can cook me. And
Mm.
you're not even trying to cook.
Mm.
And I think you just got like you really got like three different schools like battling at the same time.
And then
And it's like
Wale's over
really
in the crowd just watching.
bro, it's so frustrating.
It's so sad, man. Because
I
Wale gets active too. That's the thing. Like
if I,
when we're talking about lyrics, we're talking about bars. Wale is crazy. Sean
yeah,
is crazy. Like these two are in the same tier
bar
lyrically.
for bar, I say Wale
Lyrically.
and Sean are the top. Cole and Kendrick come after Wale and Sean. And a lot of people be like, what? And it's like, y'all really don't listen. Sean has been killing like this from the jump.
Consistently.
Wale's been
Consistently.
killing from the jump.
Yep.
Cole plays to his level of competition, or at least he
Yeah.
did for years. And it isn't
For
until the
years,
last
for
3 or 4 years.
last 3 to 4 years, he's shown he. I think it's almost like this Benjamin Buttons effect for Cole. Like it's like the older he gets, is
The
the
better he's
younger,
getting.
the better he gets, and the more hungry he is, which is
Yeah.
weird. It's weird. That you don't see that in hip hop, But I think that when you're talking about his relationship with Kendrick, and then Sean and Wale, those are the ones that those are the top. Those are the
Yeah.
top.
I think because of the nature of Kendrick and Cole's relationship, they kind of got to define like where they at. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
Kendrick and
yeah.
Sean, they had beef and they both spoke on it like, man, it's crazy. We had a beef all because of the misunderstanding with the control verse, but they worked it out. And I think Kendrick really does respect Sean, but he's really on some like, I'm insulting you because I respect you. I want you to get pissed
Yeah.
off so you'll cook me. But it's also
Yes.
like he does that because he knows Sean can cook. He's not
He knows.
calling out folks that can't cook him, not compete with him, cook him.
Yeah.
Like Kendrick knows if Sean gets super active, Kendrick's gonna have to come with a whole nother song in order to compete. Like Big
Yeah.
Sean is one of my biggest influences lyrically and who I like to write. His breath control, crazy. His flows, crazy. Lyrics, ridiculous. And it's so effortless. It's silly. It's really
Yeah.
almost like Kendrick and J. Cole took after Sean. But folks really aren't ready to have that conversation because
Ooh.
they have not dissected enough of Sean's discography to really understand. Hey,
That's one of those things we'll have to circle back on that conversation
hey, mixtape
because
Sean was writing stuff like Dice Pineapples before Wale dropped it.
yeah, 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 yeah. 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 Yeah.
He was, and people don't know
Yeah.
he put it on Finally Famous Volume 2, the mixtape. Like people sleep on this stuff that Cole been doing with the EP. Sean had been doing. The double time flow, Sean's double time flow has the speed of Logic and Eminem,
Yeah. Yeah.
and people
It
don't
does.
even know that.
Yeah.
Like if you listen to Voices in My Head on I Decided,
Hmm.
and he gets to the end of that song, I
Bro,
I
this is one of
I
those this is one of those. I think we need to circle back on that one for sure. Because I think this is one of those things that is so layered.
mm-hmm.
It's gonna take some time to digest, and you have to do a lot of investigating. Similar to what's happening to Diddler. Let's go ahead and move into press play.
I don't think y'all understand. Press play.
Let's go ahead and get into it, bro. This is the conversation I think everybody, we've seen take place over the last couple of days. Uh, uh, Diddy had his both homes in LA and in Miami raided for connections to sex trafficking, and there was speculation that he was on a plane and went down to the islands, but apparently he was spotted in Miami. So
He
there's
did
also
that.
speculation as to what actually went down on the plane to the islands. Um, what are your thoughts on all this, and the overall connection to the legacy of Bad Boy? Because I think that's something we have to discuss.
Hey man, I'm gonna have an unpopular opinion with some folk. One, I believe this generation is obsessed with cancel culture.
Hmm.
Two, overarching that, I believe America specifically, other countries too, but like America specifically across multiple cultures has a fetish with penalizing people, and so they're big on like just wanting to see wrong and like harm and like negativity, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, as opposed to like dissecting and understanding the different components. The reason that's important to know, or excuse me, and important to talk about is, excuse me, when we talk about like all these different artists that
Mm.
have had connections to Diddy, that doesn't mean everybody knew everything that he was on. Right? It's like even some of your
Talk
close
about it.
friends may not know
Yeah.
that like you involved in some of the stuff you're involved in. We've
Right.
seen it all the times where people will be like, "Oh, that's my mom, that's my dad." You could say, "I know them," or "They know me," and it holds a lot of weight. Then a child can
Hmm.
go do something like heinous, and they'll be like, "Yo, I didn't see that coming." And people will be like, "Well, we believe them because they didn't know this," or sometimes they'll be like, "Well, you saw these things about them, but you also don't get held, responsible." And it's like, there's a reason why, right?
Right.
Like there are genuinely levels to who gets exposed to what and how and why.
Hmm.
All that being said, I don't think this should negatively like affect the legacy of Bad Boy. Now, if you strictly look at Diddy and think Diddy is Bad Boy rather than the figurehead of Bad Boy, then yeah, you're gonna throw everything away. But like
Yeah.
that means we gotta look at Mace as a conspirator, Biggie, as a conspirator. Anybody involved, the hitman and all the producers, including Kanye West, a
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
conspirator.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
means you got to
Yeah.
make Danny Kane conspirators, Day 26 conspirators, Craig Mack, RIP, he was a conspirator. Black Rob was a conspirator. 112 was a conspirator. And it's like after a certain point, it's kind of like this seemed like this a little too much.
Yeah.
So it's like, do I like just throw everything away because there was one? Like we always love to make old adages like, one rotten apple can spoil the whole bunch, and then we can also turn around and say like, don't throw away the bunch just because of one spoiled apple. Just get rid of the spoiled apple. And it's like, which one is it, y'all?
Hmm.
Is everything bad or is it just the one? And this is important to note because Bad Boy has a rich legacy musically,
Yeah. Yeah.
point
Yeah.
blank, period. R&B, rap, like being, I ain't gonna say pioneers, but like being ambassadors of the game. especially through the '90s and the 2000s, with like undoubtable classics. Whether it came to actual R&B music, whether it came to hip hop, and then when it came to television culture,
Right.
like we still talk about stuff like making the band.
Yeah.
The band came out and flopped the actual group, and we
Yeah.
still talk about the show because we hadn't seen nothing like that.
Yeah.
Like Diddy is still a household name,
Yeah.
bro. We talking about over 30 years in the game, and he's still a household name. And we've heard about stuff that has been taking place for years.
Hmm.
I mean, word has it. I haven't looked too deeply into it because I don't necessarily care. But like his father was like really close friends or like best friends with Frank Lucas.
Oh,
You know,
snap.
there have been rumblings for years, decades really, that like Diddy is untouchable. Diddy did have a part to play within the murder of Tupac because Diddy got ties. Now, if his dad was friends with Frank Lucas, I was like, okay, some of this does make sense.
That makes a lot of sense at that point.
Now, how does this affect music? Because y'all not gonna sit here and big up Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack and then throw Diddy to the side like they wasn't actual gang members.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm
It's
okay with what he did in the slightest. If he
yeah.
did it, then the stuff that he did, especially as it has been mentioned, is beyond heinous. You deserve your just consequences. Just first and foremost, consequences. Secondly, but we're not gonna be playing this game when it comes to black people and others, because we do tend to give ourselves the short end of the stick as well as society, especially when it comes to like crimes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely hear what you're saying. I think that's one of the things that that's that's why I guess this whole discussion is interesting to have because there's a lot of nuances involved
Mm-hmm.
and context that I think that people don't think about. I think it 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 is best to separate Diddy from all these other artists because I
Yeah,
definitely don't think that what he did or the things that he's alleged to have done is something that should fall on them. I think the only way it should fall on them or any of them is if they were a part of what was alleged. And that's the part
thank
that
you.
we don't really know. There's a lot of things that are coming out right now, where things accusing like Stevie J of different things and even Cuba Gooding Jr. I know he's mentioned in this
I ain't gonna
lawsuit.
lie. They say Cuba did it. He might have did it.
I
That
think
man done
Cu-
some wild
I
stuff.
think Cuba, yeah, yeah, Cuba's crazy, man. It's just I think I think again when you're talking about that the '90s, right? We're talking about a day and age where labels labels had more power than they do now,
Mm-hmm.
right? And artists had to get with labels in order to get on. And I think that that's one of the things where it allowed a lot of figureheads to abuse power. I definitely believe that there was a lot of abuse that was involved in that label.
So,
Especially you hear about what like Usher went through, right? Like,
now we've been hearing about that since the '90s.
yes, and that's the
Literally,
thing. That's the thing that's weird because you hear rumblings all these years, and it kind of makes me think now, like in this day and age, I don't think that if you start hearing rumblings of someone new, like if what Diddy was alleged to have done happened in that was happening in the '90s happened today, I don't think that he would have gotten as far as he did in his career because There's a lot that's in place today that would not allow that to take place. I think technology being something that has evolved allows eyes to be on people at all times.
You
What
know,
he is accused of doing is disgusting and despicable, right?
I agree.
I don't want that to come out and destroy the legacy of like a Biggie Smalls, right? When we don't know if there was something that was proven to have happened back then, that's a different discussion. But that's my fear, is that with this, I think there are people that will automatically put blame on other people.
Easy money.
I we
Easy
don't
money.
know. We don't know if these other people were involved in any or had any idea of what was going on, right? I think also in that day and age, there were a lot of things that were more acceptable back then that would not be acceptable now, right?
Hmm.
And I think that's another thing that ties into this situation as well. Um, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens, because you just I think yesterday it just came out that they arrested his drug mule, which is the
That
white
was
guy.
crazy work.
That was
Yeah, like pink cocaine. I'm like, what are we doing?
I bro,
Pink
everything that is
cocaine?
coming out about Diddy right now is not shocking, but it's like once you start to see the stories that are coming out, it's like, bro, like how are you wilding out this big, and no one
Hey,
has knowledge? That's the thing that I think that is acceptable to discuss, because the people that were around may not have participated, but there are some that had knowledge.
hey, it's levels to that though. You and
I
I
know.
both know that it's
Yeah.
folks that like be in the stuff, but we
Yes.
also don't know what they into or how deep. Like we know certain things exist, but we don't
Yes.
necessarily ask details.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, they be
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
late
Yeah.
at night. What they be on? Ain't my business.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
Because the people that are the perpetrators know it better than to like expose you to it.
Yeah.
And they also know better than to like be so out of sight that like you get suspicious.
I agree with that. However, Diddy is someone that I feel is more sloppy with his
I was gonna say
the way he moves.
hiding in plain sight.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's
Diddy likes to
sloppy.
party. Who gonna question it?
Yeah,
What does
yeah,
party mean?
yeah.
Also, if he be partying like he do and you attended that party, one or two things gonna happen. You're gonna either have to expose yourself if you was involved, or you're gonna have to expose others by virtue of explaining or expressing what happened. And
Yeah,
you open up a can of worms and it's like, yo, are you ready for that smoke? It's almost like snitching.
yeah,
It
yeah.
really might even be dry snitching. It's like, yo, folks finna come after you if they business
Oh,
get
for
out.
sure, for sure. And but I think, see, I'm not even talking about the artists that were involved. I'm talking about the people that were around Diddy, like security and management, all of those people,
Oh, there was
because
some stuff they definitely knew.
that's the same conversation that I was talking about with like R. Kelly. Because there's no way that you are around this person as much as you are, and you don't know anything. You're not.
You
Come on,
you
bro.
knew he liked them little girls, and you knew he was with some of them little girls. You were just like, yo, as long as I don't see it, I can claim
Yeah,
I ain't seen nothing.
yeah.
But
Which
that's
I
just
think
as wrong.
that's just as wrong. And I think those are the people that I would like to see. I'd like to see, what happens to them, because that's enabling that type of behavior. And personally, I don't care what anyone's sexual orientation is, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any issue with that. My issue comes into play when you're talking about people that are underage. My issue comes into play when you're talking about non-consensual actions, right? I think that's the thing that pisses me off the most about this, right? So whatever people are having jokes about Meek Mill and all that stuff, to be honest, if if Diddy and Meek were playing hide and go seek, that's on them. I couldn't care less.
Hey, Meek told us though. He said, "Hold on, wait a minute. Y'all thought I was finished. He had another round in him. My bad. Take that. Take that." My man
Hey
said, "I
man.
thought I told you that we won't stop. I thought I told you that we won't stop." He tried to take 50 Cent shopping. You ain't hear that Panther
Yes.
Fab voice?
Yes, yes,
You
yes,
want to
yes.
party with me, man? I ain't got to party with you, did he? Like
And
Fab
then
was scared.
and then Cat came out with his interview top of the year. You know,
Hey, yo,
like
hey,
I
Cat told us, and everybody tried to play him because it's Cat. Y'all
Cat.
believed everything Kevin and them said about Cat, and Cat is like, all right, y'all gonna find out. I need everybody that doubted Cat to give him an apology.
see
The
that's the
man is
thing.
50 something and ran a sub five.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
man was right about Diddy and them.
Yes.
The man was right about Cedric the Entertainer, who literally got caught stealing a joke like 2 days later.
Hey man. I I think there is an apology in order. I definitely do. I
The
definitely
only
do.
person I'll say that Cat was wrong about, I got to defend my man's Bishop T.D. Jakes. That's
See,
me.
that's a whole. I'm be completely honest with you. I don't know anything about that story. I know that there's an alleged relationship. I don't know anything about details or any
I mean,
like how that whole thing came about.
feel like we would have had proof by now, as much proof popping up.
But to be completely honest with you, again, here's my thing. If it
No, I
happened,
feel,
it happened. I personally do not care.
I feel that.
I personally do not. You know why I say that? Because that was between them, right? My issue would come into play where the man is married. That's where my issue would come into play. But if that's how you rock, that's how you rock. I as long as it's consensual and everybody's safe.
You was more than my girl. We was like brothers.
Hey man,
Diddy said that.
I know, I know. I
No, and I got questions now because that really made me like feel away when I pause. That really made me
no Diddy.
emotionally have some type of distraught. Let me use my words here.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I'm
yeah.
still mad that somebody okay Biggie said, "Girl, you look so good. I'll blank on your daddy's blank."
Hey man, you know what's the
And you had prime Lil Kim. Prime Lil Kim was bad. And prime Faith Evans? Oh my goodness.
yeah.
Why do you all right.
I hey, look, again, to each your own. That's where I back off. I back off. You know, uh, if you feel it's time to get swallowed up, that's on you. I do not care. I will say, as long as it's consensual and everybody is safe, it is what it is. I don't think that that's the case with Diddy though. I don't, because
Try
when you
like Diddy.
see the videos of him with Bieber and Usher and
Yeah. Why you go to
bro, it's
a
like,
48-hour sleepover with a 15-year-old boy?
and see,
That's
here's the thing.
nasty work.
This is what's interesting to me. When Diddy's talking about having a sleepover with a kid, I don't even view that in the same light as Michael Jackson when he was talking about Neverland and all that stuff. I actually don't even view those the same things because I'm looking at a man that genuinely just
We know Michael Jackson had a messed up life.
he had a messed up life. I so I when and also they investigated the man and they didn't find anything. So I can't say that he did anything. But when you look at Diddy and he genuinely goes out of his way to get these kids to stay over
Bro,
at his place, there's something to it, bro. If people
he
aren't
went
just
from
talking
Kim
in,
Porter to Cassie or Kim Porter to J Lo to Cassie to Young Miami, and then you pick Little Boys. Man, I got huh?
there's so many questions. There's so many questions.
Oh, you had prime J Lo, and you wanted Little Boys.
And
I'm not.
honestly, the whole Kim Porter situation,
Hey,
that's the one part. I'm gonna tell you, to be completely honest, that's the one thing I am really looking forward to seeing come out if that gets put into this whole situation, because there are allegations that he had something to do with that,
hey,
right?
man.
So I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued.
You know who really would have been able to dang. I'm hoping this ain't as bad as I think it is. Because there's one figure that I think would have been able to shed a significant amount of light on this. And I'm hoping he wouldn't have been caught up in it. But RIP would if Andre Harrell was still alive, I feel like
Oh
we would have had
yeah,
way more
yeah,
gaps
yeah, yeah,
bridged. I
yeah,
feel like Andre Harrell was like the key.
yeah. Well, see, I think he was too, but I think Kim was about to piece a lot of things together too.
Oh, cause Kim won, bro. Kim, bro, yeah, bro, bro. I really feel like Kim and Andre Harrell would have busted this thing like this case completely open, bro.
Oh yeah, and I and sooner.
Facts.
it it wouldn't have been 2024. That'd have been a
Oh,
lot
I
longer.
feel
Oh my,
like yeah, all this would have came to light. And
yeah.
to a degree, I feel depending on what they did and how it happened, I do have a degree of empathy and sympathy. Typically don't experience sympathy, but sympathy for sure to Justin and King because if your dad had been on that for years and he had custody of you or he raised you or he brought you in the spotlight, you unfortunately got caught up in being able to have access to people that you look up to, that others look up to, but you also got exposed to stuff you had no need to get exposed to at your age,
Oh yeah,
i.e.,
yeah, yeah.
Nickelodeon stars, i.e., Bow Wow, talking about being in the club at a certain age, i.e., Usher being exposed to stuff that he was at like his young age. Like, there should be no reason you should be exposed to sex and women and drugs and you don't even, what I'm saying, know how to do pre algebra.
Right,
Like,
right, right. It's stripping away this child's childhood, their innocence, and that's the part of it that's extremely sad about this whole situation is that a lot of people were put in that situation that don't I I don't really think that's gonna come up, to be completely honest. Like his
it
kids,
should.
it should come up, but I don't know that's gonna be a thing that's gonna be fully discussed. Um, I am intrigued to know where that little white girl is, though. That little white girl he said he adopted a couple years ago.
I missed that.
Oh, you did? Did a whole
Yeah.
live on IG with what's that? I'll be Short's son. I forgot his name. Um, everybody was there smiling, saying this is a new family member or whatever. Is a white kid that Diddy saved um from her parents, and I haven't seen her. No, I haven't seen any other videos with her or anything like that. And the idea that he is connected to sex trafficking is something that bro. I wouldn't be shocked if it was this whole another like Epstein type of situation going on here. To be completely honest, I would not be shocked. I'm intrigued to see what takes place, especially over the next year. But I think at some point we have to put focus on the parents
For sure.
because why are you sending your kid to an adult and allowing them to stay with that person? You don't know anything. You have no access to your kid, right? I think at some point we have to focus. We have to focus on the perpetrator for sure, and the victims, but there should be some onus on these parents too. I'm talking about legal ramifications because to me that's a
Mm.
form of child abuse or and neglect. You willfully put your kid in that situation. You know what I'm saying? And I guess you can't retroactively do it for like Usher and all that stuff, but at some point, we have to discuss it because you can't tell me that the parents of these girls that sent their kid off to R. Kelly aren't
Hey, bro, they
liable.
knew. They knew.
You can't tell me that these people that sent the kids to Diddy didn't know anything. Come on now, like at some
Bro,
point,
it's so many levels to this. It's so many levels to this, bro.
at
And
some point
it's such a
it's got to
tangled
happen.
web, man.
Yeah,
It's a tangled web because it goes on for years through multiple people. You got money and power and different levels of influence involved financially,
yeah,
socially.
yeah,
You're manipulating and twisting goodwill because of your name and
yeah,
your
yeah,
affluence, and you're also doing some of the same dirt that like other folks have been caught on, but you're able to like hide your tracks or to have deeper networks or like to extend them.
yeah.
It's just really
And,
crazy, and I don't want to get caught up in speculation, but it's like to a degree, somebody at some point knew something,
oh yeah, 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 yeah,
something major, and I don't think that they were threatened or what's the word I'm looking for? They were under like the fear of extortion or anything.
oh yeah,
They just didn't say anything.
yeah. But that's the thing. I think everybody needs to be held accountable. Everybody
It's a
needs to be held
snowball
accountable.
effect.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I hope happens because we're in a day and age again where all this stuff is coming to light. All of this coming to light, and a lot of stuff is starting to connect. I don't know anything about the whole Jay Z thing, but people are starting to connect Jay Z to Diddy, and
I don't know where that came from, honestly.
I don't either. That's the one thing that I will say that if there's truth to anything like that, if there's truth to it, there has to be more evidence before you're saying something about someone
Hey,
confidently, right? Because Jay Z could sue. That's defamation. If you don't have evidence, he could sue for defamation.
can we be super super real for a second, which is kind of like tangential but also on point? Because it goes to something that I talked about earlier. I also do have a problem with how a lot of this stuff is like taking place. One, you get a ton of libel. For people who don't know, libel is like slander, except it's
Yes.
written down, and slander is
Yes.
like verbal or
Yes.
audible for that. I mean, to that regard. That being said, we get a ton of this through social media, Instagram, TikTok, especially people saying stuff. It's one thing to have conspiracy theories and you state this is your conspiracy theory. But to like assert stuff, knowing that it's gonna catch fire and you got people's
Yeah.
names looking like mud is crazy. Now, all the better, like when it's true that they do get caught on this. But I find it really interesting and odd that it's easy to talk about Jay Z cancel culture, Diddy cancel culture, R. Kelly cancel culture, Bill Cosby cancel culture. Y'all ain't found nothing to do with Epstein, even though y'all had like how many connections?
Yeah.
He got a whole island, but you can't really talk about folks who was on there. An
Yeah.
island. That means there are travel records to and from that the
Yes.
FAA has and that were legally
Yes.
made available. Dan Schneider is a whole creep that has been reported for doing stuff for years. Ain't no cuffs on this man' wrist.
Talk about it.
How many folks have we talked about having whole sexual abuse scandals and sexual assault scandals? Like Brett Favre got away with it, even though we saw the text messages.
Hmm.
Peyton Manning got away with it, and we saw
Roethlisberger.
the messages. Roethlisberger got away with it, even though it was verbatim proven that he was in the bathroom with that woman. But y'all try to cancel out Deshaun Watson. Y'all put Bill Cosby in prison. We got R. Kelly, but like y'all the same folks that say Draymond only likes to bully people he feel like he can get away with this with. Ain't y'all doing the same thing with y'all culture? If it's wrong, then it's supposed to be wrong, ain't it? So one
That's
or
the
two
thing.
things is happening. Either you got this issue, like I spoke on earlier, with like punishment,
Mm.
where you can't keep it a buck about what really did or didn't happen. You're just really moving off of feelings. And it's a hard pill to swallow, and it's a tough look you got to take in the mirror. But if it was done, then I need everybody to keep that same energy for the folks that we know it was done with, or we have strong suspicions, and we can bring this stuff to case. Like for real, we really talking about cancel Young Thug, but we forever gonna have commercials of Frank Sinatra singing "Fly Me to the Moon," knowing people really got bodies dropped.
No, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
What we really doing?
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
And for the folks who can't separate what I'm saying, if you did wrong, you deserve, you faced your just consequences for the wrong that you did. But don't just single out a particular group. Don't make a certain group low hanging fruit. Don't absolve other people from facing the same type of criminalization that others face if they was doing the same thing, especially if others were doing it on an even larger scale.
Right.
I'm gonna hold y'all to that standard of keeping it a buck. And if you can't, I ain't trying to hear from you.
Hey man, that's the best way to wrap this discussion up because I don't think there's anything else that could be said after that. I completely agree with you on that. We have to keep that same energy and apply it evenly to
Hello.
everyone. I agree. Well, I think that about does it. I think we'll be keeping you guys updated on everything that happens with the diddler and if he gets caught. You know, whatever happens with this guy, I think it's going to be
Ah,
very interesting. This is going to be a very interesting year, to say the least. But
right.
before we get up out of here, go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you, bro.
You can find me somewhere. No, I'm sorry, that's a lyric. You can find me on Instagram and X, formerly known as Twitter, with the numeral one, CHRIS, R is in Robert, O is in Oscar, B is in boy. That is one Chris Rob on these social media platforms. Holla at me. I'ma holla back
So,
if I get the notification. If I don't, I'll hold it to me. But anyway,
it is
holla at
what
me
it
at one
is.
Chris Rob.
Yes, sir. You can follow me at Derrick underscore OTS. That's Derrick, the black way to spell it. But most importantly, please follow the brand, OTS Media Co. on all social media platforms, OTS Media on YouTube. Again, be sure to hit that like button, that notification bell, and the subscribe button so you can keep updated with everything that we've got coming toward you guys. No Diddy.
Yeah, definitely no Diddy.
No Diddy.
Lastly, Y'all check out Precision by Big Sean.
Oh,
The man was locked in.
it was good.
The man was locked in. I got great expectations for this album.
It's gonna be an amazing album.
Fact.
I'm looking forward to it. I just think that that light's gonna be stolen
Whew.
from him again.
I hope not. You know, Big Sean has dropped a couple of EPs that has caught our attention and stuff that
Yeah,
he did with Janae, stuff that he did with Metro, not Metro, but Hit Boy, excuse me.
yeah. Oh,
And
that was
I
phenomenal,
really,
phenomenal,
bro,
phenomenal,
you know what I'm saying? So I
phenomenal.
really think that I think we'll be okay.
Most definitely, most definitely. Well, thank you guys for watching and or listening. Ashley, looking forward to seeing you come back and taking this spot next week. Guys, we will catch you all next time. Peace.